Hey guys, welcome back to the Bay Area Sports Addiction. My name is Alex, and today we have Gavin with us. Gavin, starting off, we're going to be talking about the Warriors today. Uh, do you think the Warriors can stay afloat right now with Steph sidelined with his knee injury?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that we can stay afloat, keep it around 500. Especially the X factor is going to be if Clay can keep this up. I know it's exciting for Warriors fans to see Clay really performing night in and night out. Obviously, his defense, I think at this point we just all have to accept has regressed a little bit. But if he can score like that, I think we can. I think they're showing now that they're getting a little consistent by beating the Thunder. Yeah, they're probably going to lose games to teams like the Trailblazers. Um, but as long as they can beat the teams that they should beat, even without Curry, and they'll be okay losing to teams here and there like the Blazers or obviously the big dogs in the East or even some of the better teams in the West. I also think I know we're going to get into the free agency, how crazy the deadline was. Um, but a big reason why they might end up staying afloat is actually GP2, bringing back another guard that can kind of play defense and know the system. I'm personally most excited to see that GP2 and Dante DiVincenzo line up together with how he's been playing.
hmm
Um, I mean, I'm an optimistic Warriors fan. How can you not be after we've won 4 championships? But I think we can stay afloat, even if we're a little bit under where we need to be. Bringing back Steph, I think we have a good chance to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I completely agree. I may also have that same bias, but I love the move to bring back Gary Payton. I was honestly pretty bummed when we weren't able to sign him in his free agency, but that, like you mentioned, the bench lineup actually is like decent defensive players now. Like that, like you said, Dante DiVincenzo, Gary Payton, uh, Jonathan Kuminga's come out as a defensive star this
Uh,
year. Like our weakness was like our defense on coming off the bench was a
yeah,
little bit shaky. And obviously the Warriors starting lineup has the best net rating in the NBA. The thing is, Steph's been hurt. Clay doesn't play every game. Wiggins was hurt. So we'll have to make sure, as long as we can get into the playoffs, I think that the Warriors will be able to be fine. I'd prefer that they stay out of the play-in because I don't know what it is.
yeah,
I guess the one time that they were in the play-in, they lost both. Like they're the team that lost out of the 7-8
yeah,
seed. Um, so that's going to be a key. But I do like that Jordan Poole's actually played really well when Steph doesn't play.
yeah.
Um, he obviously a couple nights ago had was that against OKC, he had like 12 assists, most assists of his career in a game. He had 38 against Portland in the loss. When Steph Curry isn't playing, he averages over 27 and a half points per game, almost 5 rebounds and around 3 assists. Uh, and that's only when Steph Curry doesn't play. Like I think Jordan Poole has a lot more confidence when Steph doesn't play because he's not like thinking in the back of his mind like, oh, should I be like passing it to Steph? Because I feel like everyone on the Warriors always, or at least when they're in the system and know the system, they they know that like probably should pass it to Steph if he's open.
Yeah,
Uh, but I also think Wiggins is going to have to like get back into the swing of things. He
yeah,
is kind of started off rough since returning from his injury. But I think the defense and the rebounding will come. Maybe it's a motivation thing. Like maybe it just gets up for playoff games. Like now that he's had a taste of the playoffs, but I think the Warriors are going to be fine.
yeah. In regards to Wiggins too, I think that's a good point because obviously watching the whole playoffs last year, he was our X factor. He was. If we didn't have Wiggins, we don't win that championship. We probably don't even beat the Grizzlies. Um, But he actually was kind of a late bloomer last season too, and I think it's part of his personality. He's a pretty laid back guy, doesn't say much, and I think he needs that. Somebody needs to light a fire in him again. because when he's playing lockdown defense and hitting his wing threes, he's the biggest player for us besides obviously Steph. No one will ever be as important as Steph. And Dre, you know what you're going to get out of Draymond day in and day out. You're going to get fire. He's going to make some dumb turnovers here and there. But yeah, I think Draymond too he's just going to have to step up and really control that team. More in a leadership standpoint more than a statistical one. I don't think he needs to score more. I think he just needs to be able to control the flow of the game. But yeah, as we both agree, I think we can stay afloat, and hopefully Steph Curry can come back right at the end of the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned it earlier. The trade deadline was yesterday at noon Pacific time. It was a crazy one. The night before, actually, KD obviously goes to the Suns. Big shakeup in the West. Just a couple days after Kyrie Irving ends up going to Dallas. It was thought actually that Luka would be coming back today, and it would be the first game with Luka and Kyrie together. But Luka ended up he's still out with the heel injury. Other news, like Russ gets sent to the Jazz. I don't really think the Lakers got any better chances. Like they're a little bit deeper, but they're still not great.
I think the Lakers definitely improved, but it's just one of those things too. When you put it in perspective of some of the other moves that were made in the West, doesn't really matter. And I know this is a Warriors fandom podcast, but I mean, most can say the same about the Warriors. Like, unless they really can show something soon when Steph gets back and get back to their old roots. I mean, those were some big moves made and for the Mavs and the Suns. So I think the Suns got to be I know that Vegas has them at plus 450 with the third best odds, but I mean, in my mind, if they get a healthy KD out there with no injuries, they got to be the favorites now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's unreal. That CP3, Devin Booker, KD, and they got to keep Ayton in that trade. I mean, that was a big one.
Yeah, I agree. It does. Their depth definitely took a hit losing Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. Those guys were big in there. Obviously, defensively, Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson's become a very good 3-point shooter, 3-and-D guy for them when he's healthy. Obviously, you mentioned the Warriors didn't really do a whole lot. All they did, finally moved off Wiseman, bring back Gary Payton. We both said this before. We love this move for the Warriors. Probably shouldn't have let him go in the first place, but it may have been a money thing. Wouldn't have been able to sign other guys. And James Wiseman was already on the books because he's a draft pick, and unless we traded him, we were going to have to pay him the amount that a second overall pick gets. But is there any specific move that you saw maybe that wasn't a big name move like the KD one that kind of shakes up either the Western Conference or the NBA in general?
Not in the West. One that I really liked, and I actually made the mistake thinking the Warriors were going to get him when I first saw the trade come out because we had our funds out so quick, was Bay from the Pistons. I actually think he's a really talented player, and I think everything anyone does in Detroit gets compressed. And if the Hawks can get it together a little bit, he's going to add a lot of firepower to them. Obviously, the Celtics, 76ers, and Bucks are kind of running away with things right now. But I think talent-wise over there, I think they have a good chance at being like the dark horse. I like that move for the Hawks. I personally don't know his contract situation, if they're going to have to pay him at the end of the year and whatnot. But I always thought he was a good player. Maybe it's because we witnessed him hit a turnaround buzzer beater 3 against the Warriors this year, and that kind of was like, oh dang, this guy's got it. If he has a turnaround buzzer beater 3 with how big he is and can play defense, this guy's going to be pretty good. But that was one of the big things for me. And at first, I thought the Warriors were getting him. When I saw the reports, I was like, oh, let's go. But obviously he's now Atlanta Hawk. But that was the one that really kind of stuck out to me.
Mhm. Yeah, I do like that move. I feel like the Hawks are
Yeah,
wishy-washy. They should be a lot better than they are. It's
yeah.
just kind of
That's
like
why I
the
say
Hawks at this
dark
point.
horse, but
Yeah.
you know, you never know.
hmm Yeah, I really liked what the Clippers did. They ended up getting Eric Gordon from the Rockets. I mentioned this in like a prior Warriors podcast that I did. That I wouldn't mind him coming to the Warriors. He is like old and a little bit slower now, but he plays with some defensive intensity and he can shoot the ball.
Yeah,
And the Clippers they're in a good spot this year. Obviously, not having Kawhi or PG like all the time kind of factors into their spot in the Western Conference, but uh, we're gonna have to see. There's a lot of guys coming. The buyout market is going to be pretty hot now that all these trades happened, and like guys are just getting bought out here and there because they were just more of like salary dumps. But we will have to see how it turns out. Do you have a Western Conference standings prediction for me to, or like maybe more? I don't know if you want to do a power ranking or like what do you think the standings are going to be at the end of
yeah.
the year?
I'll do the standings. I think it was pretty interesting. The Nuggets, for how good they looked this year before all the trades, they didn't really do anything. I don't necessarily think they can win the West anymore. I think one of those teams, Mavs, Suns, or even the Warriors, who have their number clearly, can come and beat them in a series. Um, but I do think they're going to win the West. I mean, they're kind of going far and away. I think I looked for a sec, and the Memphis has lost like 8 of 9, and it's just such a cluster in the middle. And it's been like that for so long that I think they're going to win the West. Um, I think the Suns are going to move up a lot, and I actually think the Mavs, especially with getting Luka back soon, rather than KD coming back sooner, they can move up to those 2 or 3 spot. And then I kind of rounded out 2. I think the Grizzlies will get it together. I think that Luke Kennard deal was good for them too. They kind of had Danny Green just sitting there. So I think I go Nuggets, Grizzlies. I think the Mavs are going to move up to 3 and kind of separate. And then I actually think Pelicans, Suns. Pelicans are, I would say, a dark horse. It just kind of sucks for them now with all those moves that just happened. I mean, they're a great team, and they're gonna get better, just based on Zion and Ingram getting better every game. And then kind of just round it out with Warriors, Trailblazers, teams like that. I think the Lakers do get into the play-in as well. If not a little bit more, they could get into the 8 seed, 7 seed as well. It's just hard to predict the West when after those first 4 seeds this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a time in my life where it was like this. If anything, it usually was like the East was like this more so.
Mm-hmm.
And then the West had their powerhouse with the Warriors and the Thunder and the Rockets and teams like that. It's kind of flipped on its head. But obviously with the East getting weaker with losing one team losing 2 superstars and then just kind of divvying them up in the West. So it'll be interesting. It's hard to put out a final standings after seeds 5 through 8. But those are my top 4. I think the Nuggets, Grizzlies, Mavs, Pelicans.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I personally had like you the Nuggets first. I was a little, as a Warriors fan, not disappointed, but as like an NBA fan, they didn't really do anything. Like they got rid of Bones Highland for like a couple second round picks, and then they got Thomas Bryant from the Lakers. It wasn't anything huge considering all the other moves that were made, but they look like Jokic obviously looks like a back to back MVP right now, at least the way he's playing. So I have the Nuggets 1. I have Memphis 2. the Mavericks 3. I have the Suns 4.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with KD coming in, their depth is a little lacking right now. I believe they're in 5th place currently, maybe 6th place, but they are still a really good team. Like, they still have Devin Booker, they still have Chris Paul, they still have DeAndre Ayton, and I'm sure they'll find, like, I was hearing rumors that Reggie Jackson might get bought out, and then he may be coming to Phoenix, which would be a nice, like, another backup scoring guard. So that we have basically the same 1 through 4. I think you had the Pelicans in there instead of the Suns. I have the Clippers at 5, the Warriors at 6. Very optimistic that
Yeah.
Gary Payton's going to help us turn it around. I think the key stretch is going to be after the All-Star break. That's when Steph's going to be reevaluated, and that's usually, like, if teams get hot after the All-Star break, they can usually ride it into the playoffs. So I think that's going to be big for the Warriors if they're going to want to be the 6th seed and stay out of the play-in. At 7, I have the Pelicans. 8, the Kings. 9.
Okay, I completely forgot about the Kings. That's easy to do these days. It's disrespectful, honestly.
Yeah.
But
so 8 Kings, 7 Pelicans, 8 Kings, 9 Timberwolves, and then 10 I have the Lakers sneaking in. So I don't have the Trailblazers in there, the Jazz, OKC, Spurs, and the Rockets. Yeah, I the Trailblazers are just like, they got Dame, and then they're just like, whatever. I would have. They started off the year really hot, and then now they're on the outside looking in. Like, it's, I don't know. I'm just not. I'm not
heavy on them either. It's just one of those seasons where you really don't even. It's hard to tell who's going to sneak in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I didn't realize the Pelicans too. I just looked right now. We're already at 7. I thought they were still at around 4. So
they'd lost, like, without Zion. They'd lost, was it like 12 games in a row or something like that? But yeah, I have them at 8. Or yeah, I have them at 7. Sorry. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for us today, talking about the Warriors. Thanks for coming on, Gavin. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime we can talk Dubs. And thank you guys for watching. If you like this Bay Area sports addiction content, like and subscribe on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we will see you next time.